Hey everyone, welcome back. This is the English Colonies that we're going to start up here. Just so you're aware, all of your notes are in the colony section. In fact, everything that you can find is going to be in the colony section on Google Classroom. The notes will come up. They look like this. So you might want to download that PDF and keep it somewhere safe, or at least know where it's at. You're going to come back to it in class. You don't know how much your nose itches until you start filming yourself, and then you're touching your head weirdly all the time and stuff. Okay, anyway, and then the slideshow is right here as well. So you can follow along either way, but those are where those two things are at in the colony section on Google Classroom. All right, let's get to it. In fact, so I don't love colonies either. It's my second least favorite topic after explorers. I hate explorers, and I'm so glad it gets it over with quick. All right, so when we talk about the colonies, you have to start in Europe. Look, my closet's open back there. I can never close it, and my wife hollers at me all the time. Okay, back on task. So anyway, in Europe, there's a perfect storm of craziness. Martin Luther is not Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther is a German monk, and that means that he is a man of the cloth. He's a religious person. He works in the church. And in 1517, he gets angry at the Pope. The Pope, Pope Leo X, is doing a lot of things that aren't great. The first thing that he's doing, the big thing that he's doing that is really annoying, is he's selling indulgences. Now, back in the day, Catholics, Christian people, did not exactly believe that they had a direct line to God. If you are a Christian and you are somebody who believes in Christianity, you believe that you have a direct line to God. Back in the day, during this era, people believed that only a chosen few had a direct line to God. So you would have to go to a priest or a monk, and then they would talk to God for you. Martin Luther didn't really like this either. So what he does is he goes to his house and he just starts writing. He starts writing and 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 writing. And it's basically 95 reasons why the Pope is full of it. And his biggest one, the number one thing, was indulgences. Catholics, and I'm not a Catholic scholar, so please forgive me if I'm a little wrong here, but Protestants believe that there's no in between. You're either going to heaven or you're going to hell. Catholics believe in a place called purgatory. It's in the middle. It's where you wait for God, God to judge you and send you to either heaven or hell. Well, Pope Leo X was like, hey, check this out. I need a new church. So what we're going to do is I'm going to sell indulgences. Since I have a direct line to God, I can maybe take that time in purgatory and make it a little smaller for you. But you have to give me money in return. Now, this sounds crazy to us, especially those of us who are Protestants. That is called an indulgence, and Martin Luther didn't like it. So he goes to his house, he starts writing down real quick, he just grinds it out, and he posts it, boom, right on the church door. When he posts it on the church door, people see it and they start to read it. Now, it is a perfect timing, because 2 years before, the printing press is invented. How were Bibles before this were really expensive. Monks had to write them by hand. Now, the Bible can be translated quickly because of the printing press. And the 95 Theses. So, you have 3 life, world-changing events that happen in the course of 30 years. Columbus discovers America, 1. The printing press, 2. And Martin Luther, 3. All 3 things happen nearly instantaneously, 30 years. So what you have right here is a schism, or a split in the church. Here's the early church. It schisms a couple times, but right here in the Reformation is when things really break off, and you have mainly Protestantism. Most of us who are not Catholic fit right here in this little area called Protestantism. The real issue, though, is that you have more people who are reading the Bible and they're making the arguments for themselves. This causes the schism or the split because people are starting to understand what the text means, and they don't have to rely on a priest to tell them. They can read it for themselves. So 3 life-changing events, that's the key thing. Columbus discovers America, printing press, schism, Martin Luther. And schism is my favorite vocab word in history. It literally means a split in the church. And it was a rock song in the 90s. So we have all of those three things coupled together. Now, the lost colony of Roanoke happened in 1587. There was one attempt in 1585. We're going to ignore that one. It was in Canada. Canada doesn't count because it's U.S. history. Just kidding. Relax. So the first attempt at the colony of Roanoke is right here in North Carolina in the Outer Banks. You know, Hurricane Alley. That's where the first attempt at colonization is this little island right here on the Outer Banks. It is led by 2 guys. Sir Walter Raleigh's the main guy, and my favorite character from this whole entire story is John White. I call him the Home Depot guy. So what he does is he convinces all of these people to go and make a colony in Roanoke. Now, this is naked and afraid stuff. If you've ever watched that show on Discovery, they are literally, there's nothing, and they have to survive off of the land. They have to build their houses, they have to catch food, like there is nothing there. There's no grocery stores, no farming, nothing. And that's hard, that's difficult. So the reason I call John White the Home Depot guy is because he's an explorer and an artist. So like I see him landing on this island, and he's like, oh my God, it's so beautiful. And then, you know, as people are building houses and building things and making trees and cutting them down all by hand because they didn't have, you know, power tools. And he's out drawing pictures, making pretty paintings. And then he goes, oh wait, man, this is way harder than I thought. I'm gonna go back to England to get supplies. Now, the reason I call him the Home Depot guy is because to me, it's kind of like that time that you're trying to fix your house, and you have to go with your dad 600 times to Home Depot to get 300 different things, and then you get the wrong thing, and you have to go back and forth. Maybe that's just me. But he goes back to get supplies, and he gets stuck in England because of the Spanish Armada. The Spanish and the English are fighting, and he gets stuck. He can't go back. He does go back in 1590, and when he arrives, there's nothing left of the colony. It's Croatoan is the only thing that's left, and it's literally under a rock or on a tree. They don't know what happened to them. A lot of historians now fully believe that they assimilated with the Native Americans in the area. There are some other things about hurricanes and so on and so forth, and there's weird stories about it, but mainly they think that they, assimilated with the Indians. All right, that's really the end of the most exciting things. Now I just got to tell you about the other colonies. This book does it weird. They do it chronologically as opposed to north to south. The southern colonies, the first colonies are in Jamestown, which are very close. It's kind of like, I think it's right here. I should have Googled it before I started, but I can't Google it now. So I'm pretty sure it's right here. Jamestown is the first successful colony in the New World. It's run by a guy by the name of John Smith. So now we're John White, John Smith. We got too many Johns. John Rolfe. He works with the Powhatan people to help the colonists survive. The only reason that it survives is tobacco. They figure out how to grow tobacco. It becomes a cash crop. They ship it back to England, and all of a sudden they're making a lot of money. Now, if you're an economist, the colonies are a perfect example of what a free market is. There's no regulation. There's no rules. It's the wild, wild west of making money. There's no real government to latch on and tell them what they can and can't do. And almost instantaneously, within the course of 30 to 40 years, they go from, barely surviving in Jamestown to thriving. And it literally happens very quickly. There's nothing there to get in the way. And they start bringing things in and out of ports, and it's good for most people. We'll get into the other stuff later. All right, so a couple other things that are always test questions. Tobacco, always a test question. House of Burgess, always a test question. Named after King James, always a test question. Everything on here is always a test question. Bacon's Rebellion, the reason that now we're going to start adding rebellions on top of things, but the reason that Bacon's Rebellion is important is because Bacon's Rebellion revolves around dispute over land. It's kind of the first Native American fight with the settlers. All right. Other southern colonies, Maryland. Maryland gets thrown into southern colonies because it becomes a slave state later. It's very close. We typically lump Maryland in as an Atlantic state now, but it goes in as a slave state. It is for Catholics. That's where Catholics moved. So it is a colony for Catholics. That's why their flag has a lot of Catholic symbolism on there. Georgia, established by James Oglethorpe, is a colony for the poor. Again, every single one of these is a test question. Carolinas, developed by Virginians who had migrated south. Carolina, they get into a fight over governing, so they split into two different colonies. Maryland is important because of the schism in the church. And Maryland is our first example of this, although mainly it's the Pilgrims. Sorry. There we go. But the New World becomes an absolute magnet for religious freedom. People who are persecuted, whether it be the Catholics or the Pilgrims or people who are different, they all end up in the New World because of religious freedom. Religious freedom and economic freedom are the two main reasons why people leave a life in England and come try and make it in the colonies. All right, so big farms are the number one driver of the southern economy. Rice, tobacco, and indigo crops that lead to the rise of slavery. So we have big farms with lots of workers and mainly slaves. And I know I'm dragging on a little here and I try to keep my video short, but it's actually not cotton that drives slavery early in the New World. It's rice. Rice is incredibly difficult to harvest. You have to flood the fields, and with lots of water comes lots of disease, lots of mosquitoes, lots of heat. And it's rice that is the reason why people start enslaving human beings in the South. It is not cotton. Cotton comes along later. We'll talk about the first industrial revolution. But it's rice that is the original driver of slavery. That's always on the test too. Slave codes, strict laws designed to help keep slaves under control. All right, so just to review real quick, I know you're getting bored because that's what everybody does on YouTube. Martin Luther, 95 Theses, causes a schism in the church, which is a break. It's right here. You can see this line go crazy. That causes a demand for religious freedom and people wanting to move to different parts of the world. The first attempt is the lost colony of Roanoke in 1587. John White, the Home Depot guy, he comes to the New World. He realizes he can't make it, and he goes back to get supplies. And when he comes back, everything's gone. All right. And then these are just very basic facts that are always on the test. Maryland is for Catholics. Georgia, colony for debtors and the poor. And the Carolinas split because they can't agree over governing. Economies, cash crops, rice, tobacco, indigos for jeans. That's always a question. It's the color of jeans. All right. Make sure you email me if you have questions. I know that it's impossible for me to figure out if you get it or not unless you tell me. So have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye.